Let's ask political commentator Darren Grimes. Good evening, Darren.
Good evening.
Matt Hancock, with great nonchalance on Andrew Marr yesterday, said he was open to a slight delay on this Freedom Day. There are businesses hanging by a thread. There are people who are in terrible financial states because they haven't worked for a year. And this guy's going, I'm reasonably open to that idea. I don't think the nation is open to it. And lots of businesses are desperate for Boris to stick to his midsummer Freedom Day. What are your thoughts, Darren?
Well, you're absolutely spot on. I think you've said it better than I can go home now. This is me done. I think Matt Hancock...
You've got to earn your money now, mate. Oh, so we're not paying
exactly.
You,
Matt Hancock at the dispatch box today, though, even worse, I think. He said that he was confident that one day soon freedom will return. And I thought... Hang on a minute, what? What if we'd just done the vaccine rollout, one of the most successful in the world? What if we just sort of locked ourselves away, squirreled ourselves away, hiding from this virus that admittedly harms those who tend to be elderly and those with underlying health conditions. But for people like my generation, we're absolutely fine but if we catch this virus. So despite that, we, as the social contract that we all have with one another, said, all right, well, the government's telling me to do this, follow this advice, we'll do that. But when I heard him say that today, the health secretary, it actually made us quite miffed because, you consider the fact that there already will be more variants of COVID than there are Katie Price weddings, right?
And that's a lot.
Exactly. We're talking about hundreds of thousands of variants here that we
the average virus, Darren, has about 330,000 variants.
Exactly.
And that's the other thing I wanted to ask you about. I mean, how much longer are they going to dangle before us new and terrifying, exciting variants that they keep changing the names of, let alone anything else? Can't call it the Indian variant anymore. It's Delta. I mean, what is all that about? But
is that in the NHS's woke glossary, is it?
I think we'll cover that in a minute. It probably is. But that's the point, isn't it? They can't keep saying, here's another variant, here's another variant. I think, whatever the polls tend to indicate, I think the majority of people in this country, we don't want to play pandemic anymore. We've had enough of this. We've got to get our lives back, got to get our freedom back, yes?
No, totally. But that's what I say about Matt Hancock making us feel a bit miffed today, though, because I do worry that people are losing hope. And I do worry that every single time he says something like that, every single time he dampens people's morale, essentially, that he's driving people into the depths of despair. You just have to look at the data and then you would think, well, just why on earth are the government making we all feel more glum than anything else? Because cases are, yes, going up in large part thanks to that Delta variant. And, there was that, guess what, Kev, one death in the whole of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland today. One death. And that one death apparently announced today reportedly comes from Wales. But guess what? It dates back to April 2020 because it was added retroactively.
Well, look, so Darren, here's the thing, Darren. We are now, this is what I've always feared. It seems to me now, we have, with the vaccine, effectively, and all the social distance, all the measures we've been taking for the past year, they've all come together and effectively turned COVID-19 into a non-fatal condition. And yet here we are still contemplating locking down the economy, preventing businesses from opening, making us wear face masks, socially distancing, effectively just to stop people getting a bit ill and then getting better. We can't do that. It's ridiculous.
No.
We've lost sight.
Entirely. I totally agree. And it's entirely disproportionate. I think that word is a really, really good one because everything that we've done, whether that be the law, putting these laws through, riding roughshod over parliamentary democracy, I don't think that's been proportionate as far as the emergency health measures are concerned. I think there's been precious little scrutiny of this stuff and the efficacy of much of it, from masks to goodness only knows what else, the lunacy that we've had to endure over the past 12 months. But you look at the data again, and despite the fact that people are testing positive, there aren't large numbers of people falling seriously ill. So you just think, well, why can't we go ahead and reclaim our freedoms now? Because ultimately, right, and this is at the very, very heart of it, we need to learn to live with this, like we do bad strains of the flu each year. Because, and I think it's important to highlight all of these things, for people now, and I've mentioned it already, but for people now, it's not just having to cancel your birthday party or an event that you've had booked, or your wedding, whatever that might be, or just working from home. It's actually about things like there are massive backlogs for cancer treatments. There are massive backlogs for other NHS services, for dental services, even for something like driving lessons. It might not seem like a big thing, but driving lessons round a place like here up in County Durham, if you cannot drive, you're precluded from getting access to certain job opportunities. So for a generation of young people who, by the way, have had their educational opportunities massively hampered by the lockdown strategy, they haven't been going in and having one-to-one tutorials, they haven't been going in and have been taught their lessons that they're paying through the nose for in some cases. And all of these things, they're blighting a future generation's prospects. And by the way, like I say, it's the future generation that are going to be responsible for funding institutions like the NHS in the not too distant future. So by all means, if you feel scared, if you're too scared to go out the house at the moment and you think, oh, I don't mind the government being a bit cautious now, you stay home, shield away. But I am, at the end of the day, a Tory, and I want the Tory government to remember this, because I believe in personal responsibility. And we seem to have forgotten that and throwing that out the window, throwing that out the COVID baby with the bathwater, the personal responsibility bathwater. And just all of these other things, like, I don't know if you've seen, you must have seen, this idea that on dating apps as well, you show your vaccine status. You just think, oh my word, is there anything are there any measures that or extremes that we won't throw ourselves at? Because I'm really worried about reversing all of this stuff.
I am. They took away our freedom, restoring them in terms of them giving them back to us. I think it's going to be a much more difficult process. Totally. And you've just classified a new form of liquid, the personal responsibility bathwater. I like this. But listen, Darren, great stuff. I totally agree. We've got to cry freedom on June the 21st. Otherwise, I think Boris